Hello, hello, hello. We are back to another session, another town hall. Welcome back, everybody. It's lovely to have you here. I quickly invited Duncan onto
Hello.
the stage. Hey, Duncan.
I'm gonna have to excuse me. I have to reconnect. My
Of
phone's
course.
just being awful. 2 seconds.
All right. So, it's lovely. So let's check a couple of things here. We do have a couple of topics today that we want to talk about. We will start as soon as Duncan is back, obviously. And yeah, let's see what today's town hall will bring. And let's see what else is brewing. All right. Duncan, are you there? I see your mic is muted. Probably just takes a couple of seconds to fix his microphone. So, let's start over a couple of topics that we want to talk about today. Well, one of the first topic that Duncan hopefully will introduce in a couple of seconds is a product that he released himself, and I will leave it to him to actually speak about it and what it is about. And after that, we do not really have that many other topics for today, but I do want to talk about a couple of things that are brewing in the community that are going back and forth. A couple of people are interested into it, and I definitely want to talk about some solar projects that are going around. And I see that Duncan is back. And we do hear some background music. Duncan, are you now there? Is microphone working? And okay, so I will keep talking until he fixes his stuff. Funny. Okay, so I definitely want to talk about a couple of Bitaxe solar projects that are brewing in the community. A couple of people are going back and forth about it, and I do have seen a couple of nice things, and I definitely want to invite you guys to actually speak about it. And let me see, I do see that I need to change something here. We are not in the second town hall, we are in the third, so I quickly needed to change the title here. So now that's fixed as well. Funny. Okay. Yeah, and then obviously this town hall is always for you guys, so if you do have any questions or anything else, feel free to join in. And let's test it again. Duncan, do you have now your audio? Hello? I hope that you guys can hear me, by the way. It would be nice if you quickly can write something in the chat quickly, just to verify it. What? So I was talking. Okay, seems.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. So let's see if there are any issues that are going around. Okay, what about now? Can you guys hear me now? Hello? Okay, 1 second. Hello, hello, test, test. Can you hear me? Okay, seems like I do have a couple of issues here with my microphone. Let's see if I can fix it. I don't really see what's going on here. Hello, test, 1, 2, 3. Test, test. Interesting. So, Okay, I'm so sorry. Seems like something. Hello, can you hear me? Damn, what's going on here? This is weird. Let me. Test 1, 2, 3. Hello? Anything? Now you guys hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Seems like Discord is sometimes messing around with me. I was talking about a couple of things, and now I noticed that nobody was actually hearing me. Okay, I'm so sorry. So let's go over a couple of things again. Yeah, it's lovely to have you here, Duncan. Nice to see you on the stage. So, as always, I
Thanks,
just
John.
want to give a quick introduction of what's going on today, what we're today talking about, and to all the listeners later on to the video or to the recording on YouTube. I'm sorry if you now do hear this a second time, but it is what it is. Discord is sometimes a little bit weird. So, the first topic that we want to talk about today is a new product that some of our lovely community members has released. And obviously this is from Duncan, but I want to leave it to him to actually talk about this. So this you will hear in just a second. After that, I want to talk about a couple of topics or a couple of things that I've seen in the community and a couple of members are actually working on, or something you might say is brewing in the community there. We do have a couple of people that are actually really into solar and that do love to take everything onto solar and do not pay a single penny to your power plant nearby. So we definitely want to talk about a couple of solar projects today. And last but not least, as always, we do have plenty of room for any of your questions. So if there's anything that you want to ask or that you want to clarify, feel free to do so and feel free to come on the stage or just chat with us in the chat. Yeah. Duncan, do you mind quickly introducing yourself and talking about what you have released?
Cool. Thanks very much. Good evening, all, or good afternoon for most of you in America. Well, I'm currently in England. It's 8 p.m. I'm Duncan, also known as IMGPIO, from a previous life, but I still like to use it. I run. Excuse me a second. What are you saying, Nikos? I'm a bit loud. Sorry, mate. My bad. Bear with me. I don't want to deafen everyone. I'm going to turn my mic down. Right. Is that better? 2, 2, 1, 2.
Oh yeah, way better.
Cool, thank you. I run the Solo Mining Co. It's a little web shop that I run with my kids actually in the UK. It's a bit of a project. Just I've got 2 teenage boys, teaching them, I guess, hustling, just buying and making, creating, and we just, I guess, as a family, we like making stuff. As a career, I'm a lighting designer. I do lighting for concerts. I do big interactive installs, all lighting based, and I have a real passion for kind of art and design where lighting is concerned. Which brings me on to what Clues just introduced. What I've designed is called the BitHalo, or the BitHalo, which some of you may have seen. It's a YouTube video floating around at the moment. I launched it on X night before last. I know Scott and Co have been pushing it as well. The BitHalo is a lighting board that bolts directly onto the Bitaxe, and it's a real-time kind of visual indicator of when shares are submitted. You get a really lovely orange pulse kind of emanating from the side, and it fades out and waits for its next kind of command. It doesn't do anything other than just look interesting, really. I designed it because I like lighting and visual kind of art. And I think the Bitaxe is such a beautiful thing that it just warranted having more done to it. And the thing that I'm kind of most excited about this is because it's a daughter board that bolts directly onto the back with 3 pogo pins. Anyone can plug it straight or just connect it straight to the Bitaxe. But more importantly, I've open sourced it. I know a few people have asked me for kind of details. I'm working away at the moment on another job. But as soon as I get home on Monday, I'm going to spend the day getting it all on GitHub and just get it all accessible and available. But because it is open source, I want people to write their own, or just write their own Arduino code, pull my sketches apart, whatever, and just play with it. There's so much you can do with it because there's 30 addressable LEDs on board. full RGB kind of full color spectrum LEDs, you can get the LEDs to do anything. And the way it works at the moment, it's one pin that connects to TP18, which is a pad on the back of the Bitaxe, which is it outputs the full serial output. And the app mega chip that I've put on the BitHalo is just listening to that. And currently, what happens whenever the word share accepted is kind of presented, it then runs that orange pulse kind of function. And there's a few other ones in there, like block found, which would be amazing, obviously, in brackets by Lambo, amongst other ones. But there's several lighting effects. But it's I guess I did it just to kind of plant a few seeds of kind of showing what else you can do with the Bitaxe, and just kind of look at it as art. Really, I've got like loads more ideas coming. What I'm going to do, and I'm kind of committed to kind of keep everything that I design from a kind of an art bolt-on point of view for the Bitaxe open source, because I want everyone to take it, learn from it, play with it, poke it, break it, and so on. So that's kind of the BitHalo, really. Check it out on my it's on YouTube or my website, theSoloMining.co. There's videos and info and that sort of stuff floating around. Help yourself, basically. I haven't got any in stock at the moment. I'm waiting for China to catch up and and send them, but the Chinese Chinese festival is kind of delaying everything. But yeah, they're coming, and if you want one, hit me up. I'm happy to give you mates rates, as we call it over here in the UK. Yeah, that's the BitHalo. If anyone's got any questions, whatever, just please ask me. Down at the in the bottom of the open source miners kind of group, there's the members projects. There is a channel or group folder, whatever you call it. I'm old, you have to bear with me, for the BitHalo, and there's loads of kind of info about it already that I've already put up. But any questions in the meantime, just please ask. I'm pretty much glued to my phone with this and work. So yeah, always available. Enjoy it.
Well, that sounds pretty amazing. I'm really stoked about it. Really, it does look like a cool project. But I want to go back about to a couple of things that you said. To probably a couple of our listeners are not really into those technical things. Do you mind to talk a little bit more about like what are those pogo pins and what is the serial connection? Do you want to mind if you could break it a little bit more down? So that the people get a better understanding, especially what is the daughter board. Maybe some people are interested and don't really know what this means. Like they probably do have their Bitaxe in front of them. They see a PCB with a couple of things on the back, and they might have like a big fan on the front, and it does some weird stuff. And maybe use, out of curiosity, to get some of this magic internet money that you have heard about. So what is this? Break it a little bit more down.
Sure. Well, okay, to answer a few of your questions, and I guess to kind of strip it back from a technical point of view, to make it a bit easier to understand. So on the BitHalo, there's three what are known as pogo pins. They're kind of spring-loaded contact pins that rather than going through the kind of rigorous kind of chores of soldering wires between circuit board 1 to circuit board 2 to get it all to connect, the pogo pins are it's a surface-mounted gold pin that it's designed to take circuit board 1 and squish it against circuit board 2. And those spring-loaded pins take up any kind of discrepancies in the shape or size of the circuit board or whatever, and just allow the two circuit boards to touch. And the purpose of that is not just touching circuit boards; it's to get your positive and your negative power connections and any data connections between the two boards. So it's a really nice way of kind of, I guess, seamlessly joining circuit boards together for an application like this without the need to solder them together, because obviously I appreciate not everyone has the technical ability to solder, and the reason why it was designed with pogo pins is for anybody to buy a Bitaxe and anybody to acquire or buy a BitHalo and just mash them together, and they just work. It just it makes it really accessible. So in answer to your question, that's what a pogo pin is. And the way that works, on the back of the Bitaxe, there are little gold pads. If those who have Bitaxe in front of you, flip them over, you'll see there's lots of little pads that say TP17, TP18, TP22, all over the place. They're TP means test point, and all over the board there's lots of little diagnostic ports that because it's an open source project that we can hand build and so on. We can with oscilloscopes and multimeters and all these electronic tools. We can analyze what's going on, and that that essentially allows us to kind of debug any potential issues. But casting the debug aside, what it does from a designer's point of view is it allows us to use those test pads to our advantage. I said the BitHalo, apologies, has 3 pins. It's got your 5-volt and your ground, where they're obvious, that's your power. And one of those test points, TP18, is the serial output from the Bitaxe itself. So just using those 3, I have everything I need to take that data, tear it apart, and play with it. And it just makes it really accessible, kind of, with the pogo pins and the test pads and everything. And that's kind of how we've ended up to kind of where we are, really.
That's pretty brilliant, especially like that you can just plug it onto the backside of the Bitaxe and out of whatever it functions. Like, you don't need to do anything. It just stick it on the back and it is working. Like, as you explained with those pogo pens, it's pretty amazing. I'm not sure if you have covered this, but how did you come up with this idea?
So I'm going to go back to 3 years ago when we were all locked away in our house in lockdown. Part of my job, I'm always designing, lighting sculptures and just various kind of interactive projects for clients. And lockdown came. I guess I was like I just had a need to keep designing, keep making. And over lockdown, I designed at the time that was called the Solo Beast, I called it, which evolved into the Mars Lander, which Bitcoin merch now has, which I'm sure 99% of you have heard of. So I designed that. And the reason why I designed that at the time was I wanted a home desktop Bitcoin miner that can sit on a desk and look inoffensive, and approachable for everyone, looks great, talking point, etc., etc. And it kind of, having that need, for me, it's a guttural need to design stuff. I just, I live in CAD, I can weld, I can code-ish, I design circuits. I have to make things. And thankfully, my career allows me to do that. But it's also a real passion. And when I got my hands on a Bitaxe and coincidentally met Scott in Miami last year, and kind of immediately fell in love with the kind of Bitaxe kind of ecosystem, I bought one, had one, and it was sitting on my desk. And I was like, this needs, for me, it's the concept of mining is great, but for it to exist in a home, it's about the aesthetics. Now, my wife knows what I'm like, with all this shit, excuse my language, laying around like everywhere. But if it looks nice and it's interesting and presentable, she's more inclined to, not comment on me having it on a bookshelf or whatever. So for me, the Bitaxe, I wanted to refine the Bitaxe to be something that I would be really happy to have in my house, my mum's house, whatever. So that's how the BitHalo came around. It was I guess kind of birthed from a need to design, a passion to design, and actually make it something more beautiful. I have in my head now 3 or 4 iterations moving forward of really nice, unique design pieces based around the Bitaxe, but would look incredible as a centerpiece in anyone's home. And for me, it's not just about having a super fast miner, it's about having something that's beautiful that becomes a talking point that spreads awareness of the Bitcoin ecosystem even further.
It's so brilliant. I absolutely love it that you just like out of your inner will you did this, and just for the sake of having something that you love to work on is just brilliant. By the way, if you don't mind asking about it, how many of those have you already been sold?
I bought 100 on JLC PCB, thinking that'll be enough, and I haven't got any left, and I haven't even taken delivery of those ones yet. They've shifted. So I'm really quite touched and surprised at how quickly they've moved. But also I'm not massively surprised, just because it's a really interesting, beautiful thing, and because I will be supplying the source code and the source code. The code's already on the users project thing. But my point is, because it will be accessible for anyone to reprogram and anyone to play with, it becomes another layer of something that someone can tinker with to make it their own. And I think that's one of its unique selling points.
That's absolutely brilliant. One thing that I do want to ask you as well about it is like we do see that there are a couple of different iterations when it comes to Bitaxe PCB. Some people order from I don't know, like Bitcoin Merge, some other people from Altair Tech, some other from them brand directly. Do you support multiple different boards, or is there a specific PCB with specific TP points that you only support with your BitHalo?
Sure. So that's a really fair question, and something that I have a really nice place on my wall actually that has the shape of my forehead. That every now and then, when a new release of Bitaxe comes out, they go and bash my head against the wall a little bit. That's tongue in cheek. So I've when I designed the BitHalo, it was for the 201. And then 201, 202 kind of emerged, and then 204, and then went to 204. And I was like, oh, I can't keep up with this. So what I've done, the BitHalo that I'm now shipping out works with 201, 202, 203, and 204. And the way I've done that is I have a few multiple pogo pins that that pin will mate on 201, and that particular pin will mate on 204. So I've thankfully managed to cover, as I said, between the 201 and 204 series, the 205 series now that's kind of imminent, that has the utility header, or the Bitaxe accessory ports as it's known. I will have to have another version of the BitHalo that uses that the BAP, the Bitaxe accessory port, moving forward. And for those of you that don't know about version 205 and the Bitaxe accessory port, Scott and the team and I have discussed, and others have discussed. Oh, that's a nice photo. Having an accessory port that will be just behind the screen on the rear, that at any iteration moving forward will have this 6-pin header that allows people just to bolt their own projects on. As far as I'm aware, I think there's 3 data input outputs, pins and power and ground, and 1 for future use. But the idea is that anyone that builds any integrated projects, daughter boards, solar controllers, whatever, will just clip onto that port. So the way I've done it with my BitHalo to work between 201 to 4, I've used those pogo pins on the test pads. Moving forward, I will remove all of those test pads, and then it will clip straight onto the accessory port. But that's something I have to look at kind of shortly, and I will do in the next week or so. And obviously, once I've open sourced everything, got everything on GitHub, I will then do a branch to cater for the 205. But at the moment, I just need to worry about getting off this job that I'm on and get home and start playing.
Brilliant. I absolutely love it. I can't say it enough, and I'm sorry for all the people that are now listening to this on YouTube or somewhere else, but we do have a beautiful picture currently in the Town Hall chat of the BitHalo and how it looks in action. This is just so beautiful. It seems like the Bitaxe is designed for the BitHalo. That's it. Amazing.
I will take that as a nice compliment, as a wonderful compliment, in fact. And the thing is, as I said, I look at all of the Bitcoin ecosystem, since 2012-ish when I got into it, as potential for like a huge art space as well. My first GPU mining rigs that I built, I put LEDs in, and the LEDs I had were interactive, and flashing LEDs per graphics card, and it was just it was a light show. And I think, the Bitaxe is such a beautiful thing in itself. Having it on a shelf, looking like an art piece is a selling point in itself. And that's why I built it.
I mean, we all know that RGB always makes your rigs faster. That's the case. I believe in
it. Go faster flashing.
Oh yeah. Amazing. I really love it. I can't say it often enough. Like, it is just so beautiful. It's really neat. It's lovely to have you here, and I really appreciate it that you're one of our lovely members here in this community and do provide everything that you do. Like, especially having this ethos here in the Open Source Miners United community, where we share things that we do, is just right. It's just like the way we are. And it's beautiful that you do release everything that you did with it. That's brilliant. Love it.
Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate that, and thank you so much for letting me talk this evening. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, definitely. By the way, to all those people that might have not noticed this, we do have another speaker on the stage, Crypto Ice, and I'd love to give you the word crypto, and maybe you want to introduce yourself quickly so that we can move
Good.
on.
Good evening, everyone. There's not much to introduce. Crypto Ice, just a tech pleb and a builder. So
Great,
pretty much summarizes it. And a miner,
great.
and solar, and immersion, and a bit of everything.
I hope that I haven't cut you off, Duncan, here at any point. It just
No, don't need to jump in anytime.
You crack on.
oh yeah, okay, all right.
Well,
So I
background as well. I've met Duncan a few times face to face because we live quite close. So we've shared some ideas, and
so you
we're gonna
probably have a
collab soon.
BitHalo standing at your shelf already.
No, I haven't actually. Oh
What?
no, actually I haven't.
I was going to give you one, but unfortunately I sold that one as well. Sorry.
That's all right. And more to come. We're gonna make a special BitHalo for a one-off soon. So
Amazing.
I need to recruit these skills. My RGB skills suck compared to Duncan. So
So Crypto Ice, if I just may really quickly, Crypto Ice and I, we've got some cool RGB stuff simmering, and you guys know about it soon enough.
indeed,
Now I'm interested.
well, he's definitely more in touch with his artistic side. I'm quite functional. If it works, it works. I don't care if it looks nice. It doesn't look nice.
Oh yeah.
It's not about. I'm not into French food, if you know what I mean. I'm not pleasing my eyes. I please my tummy and the functionality of the system. So, yeah. Speaking about systems, we're in the middle of a little competition. Where's Ben? We need Ben here. We need to
Oh
drag
yeah,
Ben over.
he joined in the beginning, but he left us. So unfortunately, maybe you guys need to ping him.
Because
All of
Ben's-
you ping him in the town hall chat.
Let's
Go for
bring
it.
it in. Yeah,
So
let's do that.
you brought something up. I want to go forward to the next topic, like to the solar topic. But
Yeah.
before we do this, like to all those listeners here currently, you might be wondering who this Crypto Ice dude is, but he is basically the legend who is immersion everything around the Bitaxe project. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. Immersion. Well, background, I've been doing a bit of mining for a while. I believe in the decentralized nature of things. I don't like fiat, and I also don't like paying electricity bills. Plus, I don't like the noise. So I run a little farm with S19s on solar, off grid, everything immersed. It started off with GPUs. Still got my GPUs; they're dormant at the moment. Not enough power, unfortunately, in the UK. And everything's immersed. So I've got an S19 XP immersed. I made my own tank, coolers, basically a follow-up version of my learnings from the GPU mining immersion farm. And then obviously we got involved with the Bitaxe in the last 6 months. And ever since day one, when it was on the desk as a prototype, I thought, we need to immerse one. It's more of a gimmick, to be quite honest, because neither does the air-cooled version make any noise to warrant an immersion, nor does it generate any amount of heat that warrants it. But as we do a lot of things, it's a proof of concept. I basically took my larger scale S19 design and shrunk it down to a 75 by 75 mil. I think a few of you have seen the tank. And then we obviously got one thing after the other, and we said, well, now we've got the environment, let's try and push the Bitaxe to its limits, or find the limits.
Oh, yeah,
So that model, it's a 201, and it's been up to, what, I can't recall now, what did we take, 1.3 terahash on a single chip?
No, this
But
was your
Ben
base,
actually
yeah.
managed to get it. I think Ben's gone a bit higher with his freezing Canadian outdoors. He managed to take the core voltage. I got up to 1,600 millivolts and 1,200 megahertz in the frequency, and it was giving out about 1.1 to 1.3 terahash, depending on its mood, and running at about 70 C in immersion. Anything above that, I just didn't like seeing that red warning after 70 C. I would back off. Not that it can't take it, but we had that as a guideline of, you can get them a lot hotter. But then again, the temperature sensor is not anywhere near the chip, so we're not actually getting temperatures of the chip. Hopefully, with the
Yeah,
new
I do believe like temperature
one day,
readings in the immersion is really difficult, isn't it?
it depends what chip. But the series, the 1366, doesn't have an onboard temp. But I think Scott's working the Supra, and from what I understand, the Supra has got a temperature sensor inbuilt to the chip, so we can actually get temperatures for the chip, which will be nice. So yeah, we did a bit of overclocking. We pushed it to the 1 point something terahash. Yeah, so that was the immersion. At some point, I'll give probably put it on the market and sell it. The one I want to make. I've got another 2 tanks that I might at some point make another 2 iterations, slightly different. So yeah, if anybody's interested, just let me know. But then we moved. Obviously, all my stuff is running on solar as well. The whole man cave. So I don't know how the conversation started. Only a couple of days ago, we said let's try and get a Bitaxe to run on solar. So we pulled out all our junk, the leftovers, and started putting things together. And then I thought, okay, well, let's see if we can make a nice little unit, a little portable unit. Call it a picnic, Bitaxe, whatever. So I'm in the middle of making one. So I'm currently. I thought I'd take it the extra step. So I'm in the process of making the tracker part, because it's going to have its own little tracker, sun tracker on it.
But
So
before
we'll
we
have
go
it
into this, like, what's like the basic idea? Just running a Bitaxe out of solar. But I mean, sure, we do
Yeah.
get it for electric, but let's dive a little bit into it. Like, this topic is probably nuts. Like, you,
It is. I mean, it started with me with having the S19s. So the S19s, as everybody knows, are very hungry. I've got an XP, a K, and I've got a 21 on the way. Plan is to expand the farm overseas at some point. I've got some property in Greece, plenty of sun, so we might make something there. But I just don't like paying electricity, mate. So I thought everything is very powered by nature. Again, you have to have a mindset about it, because a lot of people, if you look at my average daily winter hash power average, it's about 20 to 30 terahash. And if I would say I'd run everything on full pelt on mains, I could be at, well, when there's at the moment it's 140 and 120, 260. But I play with I've changed all the frequencies, so I've got my own spec sheets or presets, running Luxor and that, and I underclock in the evening. So now currently I'm running on battery. The S19K is acting as the heater plus mining. It's 100 megahertz, so there's 77 chips times 3 running at 100 megahertz at 12 volts. I'm doing 25 terahash. So that's
pretty
night
low
mode.
for the, that's pretty low for the frequency, but it's amazing that they still run. And do you face any issues with them? Like,
No,
they,
not at all.
oh,
I
amazing.
just need to. No. The only thing that I don't like with the auto tuning of any of the mainstream software, and that's to do with my immersion side more. At the moment, the temperature is about 5 degrees Celsius outside. The oil temperatures at the moment, the system's off. It's 17 degrees, 17.3 degrees, the coolant oil. When the XP starts up at sub 20 temperatures, and it takes a couple of minutes to sort itself out, it starts auto tuning or actually going through each chip when it settles on the frequency. And anything sub 20, I mean, in the evenings, at night when I mine, you'll see 3/4 of the chips, especially at the bottom of the tank where it's cold, all red. And then it throttles itself a little bit. So I tend to see 130 terahash instead of 140, but equally drops the power. So it will bring the power from 3,500 watts down to 2.9, 2.8. So it runs really efficient when it's cold, but it just doesn't like it as the software. It complains, but doesn't. And I do that because I'm running on battery. I have my system is an 8,000 watt or 8 kilowatts solar system, split between 4,000 east and west, into an 8 kilowatt MPPT charger and inverter at the same time. Cheap Chinese thing, nothing special. which has a connection to the batteries, which are 48 volt, and there's 7 packs of 2.4 kilowatts with they can discharge down to 10%. So there's about a 22,000 watt or 22 kilowatt hours of storage.
That's pretty
Obviously,
impressive. Like, how long can you run on your miners just by using a battery?
if I run the XP at full power, like say 3,500 watts or whatever it takes, or 3,200 at 140 terahash, I can get about 3.5 hours out of pure battery. But I sort of prefer to go longevity. So as soon as the sun's down, I've got automation. It will, and this is what I was talking to you about the other day. I need some help on the APIs for Luxor. Currently, I have to manually go into the firmware and drop the spec sheet down to 100 megahertz. I can do it through API, but I haven't managed to. I'm not very good with software, so I haven't managed to configure Home Assistant to automate the API command. I can send it manually through Postman or whatever, and I can do it, or I can do it through the UI. So when in the summer, it's a different story. There's different automation because there's longer days. By 6 o'clock in the morning, the sun starts to creep up. So I'll leave it underclocked. I'll run both the K and the XP at 100 megahertz at night, and then so when the batteries are 90% or the solar is X amount, because the goal is I'm trying to also charge the batteries during the day plus mine. So with my current setup, I've got way too much hash power available to what I can actually use. Because if I want, I can either play the fast and short game or the slow and long game with hash rate. And I'm currently trialing the slow and long game. So the K has been up now for 7 days without a restart, purely on battery. So in the day, actually, I say a lie, I cheat. Now I have a cheap electricity rate at night, which is something like 8 cents.
Oh, that's
between
cheap,
midnight and 5 a.m. It's like an EV thing. I mean, so what I do is I cheat now in the winter a bit, and I dump about from 12 o'clock at night to 5 a.m. I switch the mains on to the inverter, to the charger, and I pull 20 amps at 240 volts off it. I think it's about, whatever that works out, 5,000 watts or something, just to top up the batteries a little bit during the night.
Yeah,
because I
makes
also have
sense.
a battery.
If it is that cheap, sure, it makes sense. Like, I've seen some
Yeah.
some friends of mine also do have this like day and night difference in electricity prices. It's pretty interesting.
It is.
I
It's
wish
just a
I had
little
something
cheap,
like
but
this.
in the summer I don't need it because the sun doesn't set till like 8 o'clock or something.
But
And my west roof will make 3,000 watts like 6-7 o'clock in the evening. So what I would do in the summer is I would turn the underclocks on early, say 4 p.m. and then the system then it'll put like 1,000 watts between the two miners, and then there's an extra 3,000 watts that can get dumped in the battery for 3 or 4 hours just to see me through the night.
Pretty good. Yeah. And how's
It's quite
like,
dynamic. It's very hard. It's very hard to sort of make it perfect. Like as soon as the weather goes to shit one week, what you planned last week with the numbers is gone out the window.
Yeah, sure. Then you probably would need to add something else, like a when-if statement or something like this. Like
Yes, but
whether
there's so
it's
many
bad,
when-ifs.
when your sensor
Yeah.
detects that it's raining, ramp those
It's
miners
it's
down.
not just that. It's like if it's a cloudy day, I've set it where you say, right, if west roof goes over 2,000 watts on solar power, trigger and start the miners, right? And
Oh, yeah.
if battery is 90%, do this. Okay. Well, then the sun's come out, and then 2 minutes later, everything started, and then the cloud comes over for the next 20 minutes, and you're like, oh, great, now I've just drained, I don't know, 2 kilowatts out of the battery when I was trying to charge it. So
Yeah, sometimes it's probably a little bit hard
dynamic.
with nature playing, huh?
Yes. So
No, there's a simple solution. It's a really simple statement.
Just
If
move.
grey and rainy, move out of England.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Brilliant. We need to write that down.
So now I've moved that knowledge from the S19 immersion and S19 solar to the Bitaxe baby version, if you want to call it, or the infant version of small immersion, and small solar. So because the weather's rubbish here, and in general with I've got a little 20-watt, 18-volt panel that I bought, which is fairly light. It's like 30 centimeters by 30, or I don't know, something like that. I think it will make just enough power to have a Bitaxe working out. So a lot of people say to me, "Oh, but what battery are you going to use for all night?" I don't think I'm building this to last all night. This is more like, as we said before, to raise awareness of what people's imagination can do in this space, learn and earn something maybe in the long term. And why not take this out? I mean, I've been to the pub with Duncan now 2-3 times, and we've taken battery axes that we've made in the process, immersion axes.
Oh yeah, I've done those
lighting, halo axes. Yeah, so I think now we've been Duncan 3 times to the pub, and we've made 3 different things for the community.
Yeah, not enough as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, not enough pub, but not enough.
Did you had RGB with you?
Yeah, the pub.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh, good,
There's a photo floating around somewhere with his immersion set up and my little RGB flashy thing, and basically just beer. More importantly,
I'm like now imagining myself seeing you both in the pub, like sitting there and flashing at people with the BitHalo.
We did. Tell them what they got.
That's exactly what happened. Well, the really pretty girl said to us, "Good luck with our science competition," and we got humiliated.
When we're leaving out with my shopping basket full of like immersion stuff, the girl said, "There it is. Good luck with your science project." Like, oh my god!
Back in the day, you might have asked for a phone number. No chance.
Yeah, there you go. I posted it in the chat.
There's no beer in there, unfortunately. Yeah.
No, we've got another one with the food and the beer and the stuff in the corner. So yeah, to answer your original question, the little solar thing is just a teaser for the community. I've got a few bits and pieces that I could probably make 2 or 3 of them, 4 of them. I might just make 3 or 4, and then if somebody's interested, they can add one. It's not a made for profit or made for whatever, but I've got the spare parts because I couldn't buy them in ones, like the bearings and stuff, so I might just make a few. But the plan is to pack a 20-watt panel with a little battery charger, 1 Bitaxe, 1 battery, and a little Arduino that will control the tracker with 4 LDRs, which are basically light sensitive resistors, and it will track the resistor with the more light and turn the X and Y axis depending on, like you guys probably seen solar trackers.
That's
but imagine
like in a miniature area, probably, right?
It is a little bit complex because I'm currently in my hand. I'm holding the bottom plate with the bearing, but because I'm using stepper motors, they're stupid, if I can use that word, and they don't know when the end is. So I'm currently trying to place 2 little stop switches for the full east, full west deflection on the x-axis. So the system knows when to stop and not tear itself apart looking at the sun. So because I want to put some code in there for it to, when it doesn't have light for say an hour, it will turn the head completely to the other stop, waiting for dawn the next day.
Well, that's good. That's pretty good. Like I probably have sent you one picture of me setting up my Bitaxe on my little solar farm that I do have. Like I do have like just this little. It's not that big. It's like 80 centimeters times what was it? 60 centimeters, like from width to height. It's not a big that solar panel that I do have. It's like 80 watts, and I do have like a 200 watt hour power bank, I believe you call those things these days. So even if I would run like the Bitaxe at like stock settings, it would drain roughly 20 watts. And with this, I couldn't make it through the winter. I'm not sure about the summer, but definitely during the night, the Bitaxe itself would drain such a big battery. And like, obviously this is nothing to speak about profitability, as you said. Like this is more of a project for the people to actually...
It's just a solar miner. It's the same way we've got other machines. I mean, I'm going to take this. Yeah, I mean, even that part. I mean, I'm going to take this. I mean, I was having a dream that they will airdrop these out of an airplane, hundreds of them, just to have remote nodes and miners in the woods, and they will mine to protect us, to protect the network. The final stand. So There's a nice question from Agent P in the chat. Agent P, I had a chat with Scott about that subject. Actually, after I did some testing again yesterday. It's so dynamic, the voltage coming out of the panel, that it's like yesterday on a cloudy day, it was impossible to maintain 1 volt above the minimum voltage the buck converter needs. So our 5 volts will need a minimum of 6 volts coming out of the panel. You'd have to regulate the panel because the panel will go from nothing to 24 to 18 volts, this particular one. So you'd have to stop it at 5.
For all the listeners that are listening later into this year, Agent P asked in the chat that like the original idea of the BitX included a quickly throttle the chip based on available power without a need for any MPPT controller or battery. And he's asking about any updates or progress towards that. Can anyone explain why BitX needs a full restart between changing voltage and frequency? So I believe Crypto Eyes basically talked about the first part of the question, and I can definitely answer the last section. But I believe Crypto Eyes, you want to say something, so go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I mean, any firmware we use, even on the big stuff, and any electronics, like Scott said, you can't. It's quite hard to just shock it with power. So they tend to try and ramp things up slowly, both for the internal parts of the silicon or something. So Scott said that there was some loop or something. Duncan, I don't know, you guys might know. There's a particular name when you put too many amps in the silicon too quickly. It does something.
Overcurrenting and melting. That's all I know.
There was another thing where it does some spurious stuff and it confuses itself. I don't know. There was a terminology.
It's literally destroying the chip if you would do so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like causing some sort of electronic tornado with the interference, and it takes a while for the to settle down. But that's one thing. Ramping the chip up and down on the voltage. But we also need to keep the voltage under control. So it's going to have to be a 5 volt
I mean, actually, the BitX
voltage rail, and then we're changing the power levels.
Yeah, that's okay,
true. So the problem here is the 5V and the amps.
Actually, speaking about this, like, no worries, about the BitX and the input voltages that you do use, like, we always rate that the BitX needs to run on 5 volts, but actually if you just put in like 4.5 to 4.7 volts, that's actually also fine. It does not destroy anything and you can
I've got one that's running at 4.7.
Yeah, so it will run perfectly. Like we do have in the web UI, we do have this warning that if you do put in too low of a voltage, then you get this warning low voltage on there. Don't worry too much about it. If this device is hashing, it's hashing. And towards your question, can anyone explain why the BitX needs a full restart between changing the voltage and frequency? Sure. So the way how the current ESP miner is designed is that we do need to run this frequency and the voltage that are set onto the software in a specific pattern. And the way currently it is, we cannot change this so that the chip actually knows it and sends to the ASIC another command over to change its frequency. With the current iteration, it's just not possible. I do believe that we have a couple of people that already talked about it, and they already have a couple of ideas how we can change this. But for the current state, how the firmware currently works, it's just not possible. So the restart is needed because it's written in a specific file that cannot be changed as we would love to currently. That's the easy explanation. I could go a little bit deeper into context, but I think it doesn't make sense here. Yeah. I hope this answers a little bit the question why it is currently not possible. But nevertheless, so where were we? We were talking about like solar overall.
Yep. That's the way forward. I mean, no dependency. I saw a scary report from the American Department of Energy that they wanted to know what everybody was burning. I don't know if you guys saw that.
No, I didn't. What's it about?
There was an emergency request by the... Hang on, let me find it.
Was that the Joe Biden thing?
Yes.
He wanted to create like a register of like whoever's mining and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
basically,
it's not...
fuck off.
It was actually circulated like an emergency. What do they call it? When they sign emergency powers man. What is it called? That they have the Yanks have. The president could do.
Anyway, while you're trying to find it and look it up, I don't know what's going on with solar, but I've set up my first solar panel like I believe 1 year ago in my garden, and I just put on a what's it called, a power converter, like from DC to AC, and I just pull in the power from my solar panel directly into my wall outlet. I don't know what's going on with solar, but this feels like a drug. I do want to actually get like all over the place my whole garden just with solar, just for the sake of doing so. This is, I don't know why this is. It's just amazing. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
I'm kind of with you. I am a real fan of hydropower as well. I've got access to a stream at the part of my property, and something I want to look at over the summer with my kids is building basically power generation from the stream. And I'm with you. There's something really quite addictive about kind of harnessing that power, but also kind of, for me, it's about taking the resources I've got around me. I've got an old alternator in the garage from an old Land Rover, and I've got dynamos and stuff. And it's like, what can we do to utilize this stuff to harness that power to allow this to happen? And I'm totally with you. It's quite addictive, and I've got some cool shit simmering. So yeah, we'll see.
It's definitely something about it, and it's definitely addictive. Like I don't know why, but I actually want more solar panels, and like I convinced my girlfriend now to actually only use the power bank that I do have, that I daily charge with my solar panels, and I convinced her to every electronics that she has that she can like plug in with 5 volts from USB cables, and so I convinced her to only use this power station to charge up her devices like this. Like I don't want to see any wall adapter in the wall. Like no way. This is so addictive.
And less electricity bills, obviously.
Oh yeah, I mean my electricity bill here in Germany, like I do pay up to 40 cents per kilowatt hour. So even if you just cook, you can read on your meter how high it will be. It's insane.
Yeah, we have a very similar problem here in the UK with power rates that makes it almost well, in fact, it is unviable to mine unless you've got super efficient, stuff, and kind of and start looking at solar and other options, which circles back round to why I designed the Mars lander, why I'm so into the Bitaxe, etc. Because they're small, really power efficient miners, the grand scheme of things, that allows anybody to be involved. And if we can, as you say, harvest solar power on top of that, that's just a win-win-win.
Yeah, now imagine like being one of those that are using solar power to actually power up their the miners. And then like I do know a couple of people, most of them are in Austria. They do have solar farms, like they just have big plants of solar panels, and they just plugged in like, what was it, 10 or 15 miners, so not that much, but the solar farm itself is like massive, and they hit 1 or 2 blocks with it out of solar. Like how amazing
that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean obviously over
just
a course of couple
pulling
of years,
sunlight out of the air and turning it in. Take sunlight, exchange it for Lambo. I love it.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So let's see. Do you have something up in the chat?
Very good.
By the way, guys, if you do have any questions, raise your hand. I will bring you up to stage. If you just want to chat with us, always come up to the stage. If not, feel free to ask anything in the chat. This here is for you guys. So go ahead.
And if I may, I'm just reading through this. So Sync, I've seen what you said. It is addictive, seeing wasted and transient energy that could be harnessed. What's your feelings on that? Do you yes, it is addictive. That implies that you've been kind of playing around with that. Are you into any solar, winds, anything like that? Just I'm just curious. And Qbyte 40 cents. That's the reality. Kind of over in Europe, Germany, UK. Like it's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But what it does, it's that saying, necessity drives innovation. Because it is so bloody expensive to, play and mine, it's literally forcing people like myself. I can't afford to run, S19s, S21s, whatever. But what I can do is I can run multiple Bitaxes. So because it's unachievable, it's forcing us to think about innovation. So it's that's a win in itself, isn't it?
Well, yeah, definitely. Like actually having the possibility to just do so, to actually just harvest something that is freely around you, especially like you talked about this water plant that you do have. Like I always dreamed about this, building my house next to a river, next to a stream, and just putting in like this shovel thingy. I'm not sure how this is called in English, but this shovel thingy, and creating free electricity for the rest of my life. Like how amazing would this be?
Like, well, that's it, isn't it? And the thing is, if we with that, exactly, water is one option. There's wind, there's solar, there's ground source heat pumps. There's so much you can do just to recover recover energy. Essentially, if we can kind of harvest that, and that, as you said, there's no reason why you couldn't run, your whole households on, renewables. If you, if you think about it, and kind of put that innovation into it, it's definitely within the reach of everyone.
I posted the link about the Department of Energy's survey crackdown thing.
I've seen
I don't know why it's not so.
It brought me up to a conspiracy theory that I do have. Like I received 2 days ago, I received an email from my hosting provider said that they do have some issues with their power lines. And yeah, I'm not sure if they really do.
Well, they've just put the gun to their head with having to report how much power they're using. And they're trying to hide it behind it's too cold and we don't have enough for the network and the miners are not listening and we need to be prepared. It's an emergency and all this malarkey. It's actually pretty interesting read. But brings you back to the point why you need to be off-grid and not depend on... I mean, we're talking about decentralized BTC and power to the people, miners to ourselves, but then they could turn the power off to us and control us that way. Oh, okay, well then we won't mine. And we don't know where all you miners are, but we'll just turn your power off and then indirectly we'll just knock you all out. Well, the same thing with the internet. Like our ISPs, we need to start thinking, since our machines are not, I mean, that's another pet project I want, but mesh networks and LoRa and stuff, they're all great, but you need enough of us next to each other to be able to have a mesh network. Starlink is another option, but again, Starlink is semi-decentralized by its uplink. So
yeah, and it still needs some ground station. Obviously, everything needs a ground station, but yeah, like thinking about
that's the next big project we need to look at is satellite. Blockstream have their satellite. That's another pet project I want to kickstart, where I want to see if I get a node with a miner, with solar and the Blockstream downlink, so it could be completely off grid, even if the internet goes down. The system's still running.
Yeah, funny thing. So some people are always referring to like, yeah, imagine the whole world burns down and nobody has internet, then your bitcoins are worthless. Dude, even if the whole world would stop on energy, there is Bitcoin in the space. We do have at least 3 satellites that I know of, or is it 3? I'm not sure, but at least 2. let's
Blockstream has 3, but again, I'm looking into it because they have an uplink that sends the latest block up from our normal networks to that one. Yeah, because it's only a downlink from them.
So, yeah, we do have those satellites out there, and even if like the world would go offline for like 2 days or so, nobody would care. Like the satellite is still working up there.
The problem you'd have though is that the satellite's receiving the latest block from a ground station, and then basically all it's doing is beaming it down to me as a transmission. I can't send anything back to the satellite, so it's a one-way. So if they kill the uplink, the satellite and its node will have just the last iteration or image of the last block that it was received as it sync.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of cool stuff we can do to either hide in plain sight, such as, you could use Tor, right, if you're using Starlink.
Yep.
So they couldn't necessarily see your traffic.
No,
we can do some other cool stuff. Like we could even, if you're like mining on public pool or whatever, you could send your like a successful block solution via SMS or some other communication means. There's almost nothing they can do to completely cut you off because you can always hide in plain sight.
By the way,
Yeah.
hi Ben.
As long as our ISPs are still playing ball and they're giving us access to their network. That's my worry. The bottleneck is the connection, my fiber coming to my house.
I mean, in order for them to either take everyone down or identify you particular that they don't want your traffic. And I'm saying that you can always hide traffic, in an encrypted protocol, or just use another method like I said, like SMS.
We're just thinking more prepper style, man. If somebody whacks out the Docklands where the data center is, they can leave my connection okay, but the fact that the Docklands are down with the fibers to the US, I mean, it's down. So there is bottlenecks in our system. They're very centralized. I mean,
there are plenty of threads.
Do we have any ham operators?
Pardon?
I wonder if we can, because we don't have, I'm thinking out loud now, but if we have any ham operators, I wonder if we can talk across the pond and send, because you can send very low bit rates across VHF and UHF. That's how submarines communicate. And I wonder if we could send a Bitaxe package. Duncan, let's have a chat about that next time we go to the pub.
So I will just interject if I may. So the guy, when working away at the moment, and there's three of us in this grotty little Airbnb, and the guy in the other room is a ham certified instructor.
There you go.
He's got like every radio license like in the world, and I think he writes his own shit as well. But my point is, he's the guy, and I'll talk to him about this after. That could be quite fun. Be a fun project.
Speak to him, and actually, from the Bitaxe from the pulses that you dug into the firmware. You probably know how big the bit stream is, or how big the data package is.
Yeah, it could be fun. We can do an encrypted chunk and just sling some bits across. Yeah, I'll talk to him in a minute.
Yeah, and see if someone can get them out the other side, and we can stick them into the node. That'll be a nice little deep.
Oh yeah, definitely interesting topic. Like doing this, there's nothing that could stop us doing so. By the way, going a little bit back, like Ben, we were talking about this solar hustle or solar race that we are doing. Yeah, and by the way, hi Ben. So we were talking about this solar race that we do have. Like what's your catch on solar and the overall thing? I do believe that you have done some overclocking as well.
Yeah, so solar is actually one of the first things I did back when I built my first Bitaxes with the 1397, and I just did a direct wire. So I went right from the solar panel to the buck converter, to go from the 12 down to 5 volts. And interestingly, with the 1397, it was actually a lot easier to change the frequency up and down. And so as the power varied from the solar panel, cloud goes by, I was able to look at the voltage and adjust the clock appropriately. Unfortunately, there just wasn't enough capacitance, so the voltage changes happened so quickly that I couldn't adjust the power enough. So you really just need a little bit of more capacitance, and I don't think it would take a lot, especially for just a Bitaxe. And Scott's talked about this, that we could make a MPPT controller that uses a capacitor or maybe even just a very small battery to be as cheap as possible, so that you don't need to buy these really large expensive batteries that are usually associated with solar. So you throw your Bitaxe, you throw this box under a solar panel, and in your hashing. And the great thing about the Bitaxe is it's so low power requirement, you don't need to set up a dozen 300-watt panels and AC converters and all this other stuff that you would normally need to do for a S19 or a house. You can start contributing to the network at really low cost. These panels are $50 maybe, and then this MPPT thing probably another $10 or $20.
I'm sub $75 at the moment with what I have. So
exactly, you don't need
battery charger
to try to do that on an S17 or an S19. That would be a huge cost, right? Because you need all these batteries, you need big panels.
I'm $20K for on 20K and for the 20 kilowatt batteries and the 8,000 watt panels on the inverter.
Oh yeah,
So
that's
that's
expensive.
nice.
So
Yeah.
Like
what we
compared.
need to do is we need to get plebs to start setting these solar installations with the Bitaxes or even the Hex, because the Hex isn't very much power draw either. It's only 70 watts. That's like a single panel.
Yep.
And just start getting people to use these, right? Because then they can't get shut down with power companies. They can't get monitored by anyone. They're completely self-sovereign. They don't have to worry about electricity costs. So they can run them like literally forever. It's the way. It's the way to go. Is not to only be self-sovereign with Bitcoin, but also be self-sovereign with your power.
Yeah,
Games on, Ben.
one thing that I'm most concerned about is like this capacity wise. You need to have some sort of this like in between, especially when you do have some clouds or anything else coming around. You do need to have some sort of a battery, as small as it could be. But this is currently in this current state the most expensive one, especially if you do talk about those bigger miners like S19 or the S21. This would be hilarious. Like you talked about a crypto ice, how much money it is to put down to have a couple of those miners running.
Well, I learned the hard way.
Oh yeah, and
The
then you still
beginning.
need
When I
to.
first,
Yes, I'm sorry.
sorry,
Then
go
you
ahead.
still need to have some sort of an automation system that changes the frequency or adjusts something else so that you do not run out of power. Because sure, the idea would be to have this device running all day long, but even if you just would take a BitX or a bigger miner, like let's say a Hex or Octo X or whatever, if you take a miner that is capable of actually doing something for this blockchain, and then we do run this as always as we do have the sun out, would be amazing. If you can run it a little bit on night, perfect. But I don't think that the way to go, the bigger goal would be to do or to run it all day long. This would be an ideal setup, but it's just it's unprofitable. Like in the way how much you need to spend currently on batteries, no way this is gonna work. That's my
Yeah, I would
take from it.
agree. I think the way to go is to spend as little as you can on a battery. Ideally, like the BitX could probably easily run off of a single 1650 cell or just a large capacitor. So spend as little as you can on the battery, spend as much as you can on the chips, and then you can just upclock or downclock the chips depending on how much power is currently available to you. That's a much cheaper option. Like a single, um, a single chip is maybe $10, or if you do a 1397 version, $2. It'd be a lot cheaper to get 10 chips and be able to use all that power that the sun is producing in the middle of the day, and then draw it way back in the morning and the evening. It'd be a lot cheaper to do that with a tiny little battery than to have like one chip running all out, right, and then using that battery as a buffer for your to put the excess power in the daytime and then draw it off in the mornings and evenings. You should be using the power as it's available, not relying on these batteries to provide that power to you at alternate times.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I do think currently, I'd say in the future as well, the biggest issue for the people that might be interested in, but are not capable of doing it is like the technical standpoint. You obviously need to have a little bit of a technical understanding of what you're doing. At least you're playing around with electricity. You should be careful. That's my take from it. But I could see that there might be something in the future, like especially from all those member projects that we do have. Probably there's someone around that does have like a ton of ideas for an MPPT project. Probably something is brewing about this. So to put it a little bit more down there, that the people do not have to worry about all those electric things. Like designing your own MPPT charge controller would be insane. Like maybe we can put something together in this community. Would be amazing.
I think we absolutely can, and I mean that's what Scott's original vision included, was doing this all off of solar, and that's why like I also started really early on with like version 1 Bitaxe I built solar. I think all this is kind of building up to that, and ideally, it'd be really cool to buy your Bitaxe, buy this MPPT black box thing, right? It has like I forget what the standard is, but the standard solar inputs. So you plug your solar panel right into this box, and then you plug your Bitaxe or your Hex or whatever into the other end, and then you just let it go, and it will just use whatever power is available to it.
Oh yeah, that would be brilliant. Definitely. But by the way, we're now a little bit over 1 hour into this town hall. Do we have any questions left from you guys that are currently listening to this? Or if you do want to ask us on stage, just raise your hand and I can put you onto the stage. Otherwise, I've been looking for a close-up here in the next couple of minutes. So, I'd say we go ahead with the topic, I believe. Like, what was your first setup, your first solar setup that you did? Ben, I'm sorry.
That was the setup I was talking about with the first version of Bitaxe.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a 100-watt panel connected to a buck converter to take the 12 volts to 5, and then going from the buck converter right to the Bitaxe.
Oh, right, to the BitX. No battery in between?
No battery.
Oh,
no.
Insane.
Yeah, and it works pretty well. And as long as the power is sufficient, the problem is the brownouts couldn't quite handle those very well.
Yeah, especially when a cloud or a rainy day. Obviously, rainy day wouldn't work, but like clouds coming by, BitX down. Clouds off, BitX runs.
Yeah, it would work fine for like if you had a clear sky from morning to evening, because the transition of the sun is slow and it could easily adjust for that. It's like the really quick stuff, right? A bird flies over cloud. Those quick changes are hard to
therefore you definitely
adjust for.
Not to mention that when it browns out, the Bitaxe restarts, and after a while, it just defaults to looking for a network as well when it wakes up.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's also something. Like, as always.
The ESP can run really low power. Its regular mode only draws like 300 milliamps, and then it even has like a super low power mode. So we can take advantage of those. So it could run off a single 18650 or even a capacitor for hours at a time.
We could think then it could be a thought process for our next firmware upgrade. So maybe add a delay upon boot, because this machine of ours, it boots up rapid. Instant. Maybe we can add a delay in it.
To fix the Wi-Fi thing, I think we'll end up doing is continue searching in the background rather than stopping.
Yeah, do you remember what I told you when I turned off my power and the Ubiquiti took a couple of minutes to wake up? The Bitaxe fired up and spent the whole day just doing nothing because it acted quicker than the Ubiquiti system. And
this has been in the works for a while, but we need to add like a watchdog, like an extra watchdog process, the Bitaxe, so that even if other events unforeseen, say the pool stops responding, network, maybe an unstable overclock, whatever it is, that it would make sure that it's always doing work, right? So if it sees that you haven't had like a valid share come back after a while, go ahead and restart. And that would catch some of these issues.
So definitely some work to do there on this end. I think that's a good end for today's town hall, I believe. So we talked about a couple of things. We introduced the BitHalo today. We definitely had a good talk about solar arrays and like the solar systems and how you could use them overall to run your Bitcoin miners off solar instead of using this dirty electricity out of your wall. So that was definitely a good talk. I enjoyed it today. I thank everybody of you for being on this stage and talking to me, and to everybody else, obviously. And I think I'll end this town hall with this. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.